meet my bride. Let's go for a ride in my newfangled automobile. Just where we will go, nobody knows, but it's sure a great way to feel. Behind the wheel of the speed meter steel, it's my newfangled automobile. Hello and welcome to Vintage Car History. I'm Wild Bill. Charles Rolls of Rolls-Royce fame found himself tiring of just being on the ground when airplanes had been recently invented. Flying seemed far more fascinating to him than merely driving, and so he began to barnstorm, which ended tragically in 1910. Yet there was one man who, after an extraordinary career as a pioneer aviator, decided to put his feet on the ground and his hands on the steering wheel. Here's the man that made cars that seemed like they could fly, Gabriel Voisin. Born in Belleville, a town in eastern France in 1880, young Gabriel was intelligent, energetic, and studious. He enjoyed the outdoors, fishing, hiking, and trapping. Intrigued by mechanics, he studied industrial engineering, and by age 20 had not only his degree, but also a fascination with the emerging science of aviation. Voisin was all over anything that flew and pursued it with a passion. After completing his military service in 1904, he embedded himself into all things aviation in France. He built gliders, also piloting them, and after a few years of exemplary work, would be approached by Louis Blériot to partner in aeronautical adventures. The two would build some impressive planes, but none were successful, and the partnership did not last long. But Gabriel wanted to make the world fly, so he took what he learned and established a company that would build airplanes for anyone, the world's first commercial aircraft manufacturer in 1905. For the next decade, Voisin would be at the cutting edge of the aeronautical industry. When war in Europe began in 1914, aircraft would be an industry and technology that advanced incredibly during the conflict. Gabriel was himself at the heart of this avian war machine, and after seeing what the flying machine of war could do, decided to refocus back on the ground. He had, in his youth, experimented with cars, but once the war ended, it was time to take what he had learned and apply it to the automobile. Make no mistake, this was controversial at the time. Voisin was a pioneer aviator, influential industrialist, and a national hero, having a stellar reputation as France's premier man of the skies. Yet in 1919, he established an automobile company that would build cars that just about casually and elegantly flew along the road. Converting his aircraft factory into a car-making factory, the first Avion Voisin cars became available in 1920. Called the C1 in honor of his younger brother Charles, who had died in 1912, it had a 4-cylinder, 80-horsepower Knight sleeve valve engine under the hood and sold in chassis form only. Yet it was very well designed and built, and with Gabriel Voisin's stellar reputation, Voisin cars soon became highly sought after by the European elite. People like H.G. Wells, Rudolph Valentino, Maurice Chevalier, and the famous architect Jacques Corbusier were all proud owners of Voisin cars, and most Voisin owners called upon the best coach builders anywhere to clothe them in a manner that paid homage to aircraft. Top technology and precision engineering was under the hood, and so these cars carried the theme and quality. In 1921, they began to offer a Knight V12 engine, and at the same time brought on a smaller car, 4 cylinders and barely over 1,200 cc's of displacement, which was not particularly successful. But in 1927, Voisin began to move towards straight sixes. Once again, and as almost always provided by Knight, and began to offer bodies made by their own designers. The Voisin cars of the late 20s and early 30s are always well made and thought out, but can also be quite unusual. It was rumored that the Corbusier was one of the in-house designers at Voisin, but that is unlikely. Gabriel knew lots of innovative industry people, and he himself was quite capable and a visionary designer. The C-14 model, introduced in 1932, was a rolling Art Deco aviation art. Beautiful, fast, powerful. The term the supercar isn't unreasonable to describe a 1932 Voisin. Like most European companies, Voisin ceased car production in 1939 to produce other things for the war effort, but his facility was overrun by the Germans in 1940. He did attempt to do some production of light cars after the war, working with a company in Spain, but his automotive days were just about done. In his later life, he downplayed his cars, writing books about aviation, space exploration, and other aeronautical exploits until his death in 1973. Gabriel Voisin was a flying French living legend. And he made sure that if you drove one of his cars, it would make you feel like you were flying. Thanks for watching Vintage Car History, and we'll see you next week. Peace.